4 years ago, I ran into a guy at a Dave Ramsey Entree Leadership event in Nashville by the name of Aaron Walker. That meeting completely changed my life. About 7 or 8 months later, after I had decided that I needed to keep up with him because the wisdom that he spoke during that week in Nashville, I knew I needed to get around the guy. And so I reached back out to him a couple of months later. We had lunch when I was back through Nashville. And then it finally took about another 6 months before I was able to pull the trigger and afford to pay him as a coach. That decision was one of the best decisions I have ever made in my life. That decision helped me refocus my priorities for my faith, for my family, helped me see my business with my company, School Spirit Vending, and the school fundraising that we and our team do around the country. It helped us transition from a distributor model to a franchise in the last few years. It put us on a path for growth that I never could have imagined in my wildest dreams. Well, as he has continued to encourage me and to be a positive influence on my life, he's challenged me time and time again that because of the experiences that I've had, because of the things that I've done in my life, from being an Air Force pilot to being a corporate executive in the advertising world, to now being an entrepreneur and the CEO and founder of a nationwide franchise, he has challenged me that I need to write a book, that I need to share my life story, that I need to share some of my experiences and wisdom that I've learned over the years. And because so much of my life in the last number of years has been defined by our business, I've been hesitant because I didn't quite know what the book would be about. And in a conversation several months ago with a good friend of mine, a guy by the name of Kurt Stowers. Kurt is also part of a mastermind under Aaron's leadership that I'm a part of as well, in his View from the Top, Iron Sharpens Iron mastermind groups. Kurt and I were brainstorming, trying to start to figure that out. And that's when I came up with the idea of Sowing Seed. Because sowing seed is really what has defined my life for years. I was raised up and brought up once I joined and became flying in the Air Force in a multi-level marketing company, and was taught the importance of serving others selflessly, of sowing seed, and not taking responsibility for the growth of that seed, but taking responsibility for the sowing of it. And so Sowing Seed, the title, made complete and total sense. Because ultimately, my life has been about sowing seed. It's been about my faith walk. It's been about my family walk and the intentionality that we've tried to have there with raising our kids. It's been about our farming walk on our homestead here in EIEIO in Central Texas. And it's been about our trip, our journey to financial independence and financial freedom through vending, through our franchise company, because I read a little book by a guy by the name of Robert Kiyosaki called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. 13, 14 years ago that completely changed the way I looked about life. I looked at life, money, etc. Now, for those of you that are believers, you know that God talks about sowing seed in the Bible. And while this podcast and my book is not going to be all biblical, it's not going to be a Christian treatise. The parable of the sower is extremely important to me in my life, and I hope it is to you. So I'm going to take a minute here to read the parable of the sower, Mark chapter 4, verses 1 through 9, to give you at least a little background. Now, this parable speaks to sharing the word of God and the different types of people that will hear it and the fruit that will come from it. And it's my belief that just like this has applicability to our faith and to sharing the gospel, I believe it has the same applicability to just about everything that we do in life and the seeds that we plant, whether it be in a garden down the hill like we have here, whether it be out sharing or selling an idea, whether it be looking for support for a charitable organization like the organization Kids Across Cultures that I'm on the board of directors of, whether it be any conversation or comment or time that each of us spend in and around others. I'll give you a great idea of an impact in my life. We went to a church in Kingwood, Texas for years after I got out of the Air Force, called Kingwood First Baptist Church. And a guy in the congregation by the name of Damon Andrews and I had a conversation one Sunday between Sunday school and church. And he had mentioned the fact that he and his young daughters had purchased a couple of gumball machines, and he had utilized those gumball machines as a way to spend time with his girls, as a way to teach them about business, to teach them about money, etc. Those words were a seed in my life. Damon didn't know that that was going to come to anything. I still don't think he knows, because they've moved away, the impact that seed has had on me, has had on my family, and has had on hundreds of other families on our franchise team, and thousands of schools around the country, because he sowed that seed in a conversation in my life, and God chose to grow that seed in my life from that conversation. Mark 4, 1 through 9. Again, he began to teach beside the sea. This is Jesus, by the way. And a very large crowd gathered about him, so that he got into a boat and sat in it on the sea, and the whole crowd was beside the sea on the land. And he was teaching them many things in parables, and in his teaching he said to them, "Listen, behold, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured it. Other seed fell on rocky ground, where it did not have much soil, and immediately it sprung up, since it had no depth of soil. And when the sun rose, it was scorched, and since it had no root, it withered away. The other seed fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no grain. And other seeds fell into good soil and produced grain, growing up and increasing and yielding 30-fold and 60-fold and 100-fold. And he said, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. I can show time after time after time where sowing seed has produced those types of results in my life and in the lives of others around me. And it's my prayer that this podcast and my future book or books will be seeds of good in your life that will grow in good soil, much like Jesus talks about in that parable. I look forward to sharing the journey. Don't quite know where this is going. You're going to find that probably some of these episodes don't apply to you because you don't farm or don't have any desire to farm. You may not be a believer right now. You may not have a family, or your kids may already be up and gone, or what have you. But this is going to be a podcast about me and faith, family, farming, and financial freedom, and how those things impact my life. And it's my hope and prayer, once again, that this show ends up being seeds in your life and in the lives of people all over this planet. And in the process, because they're good seed and they fall on good soil, there's no telling what these seeds will do or be and what God can do with them. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to sharing the journey with you.